Our next story regards Bethesda, okay? And this story is in regards to Starfield. Wait till you hear this one. I'm going to read a lot of this word for word, so just for the record, this is from a Games Radar story that was published 2 days ago, and this one absolutely blew me away. Okay, are you ready for this one? Get ready for this one. Starfield lead says that the RPG's ending twist was a panic button idea to tie things together because the team was overbooked making everything else. Hold on a second. So you're telling me that the brand new IP from Bethesda that was supposed to be the new flagship title that everyone was going to care about and love, right? This is going to be the new Elder Scrolls. This is going to be the new Fallout, okay? They didn't write the fucking ending. They literally were making the game and just flying by the seat of their pants and didn't know how it was going to end. I mean, new Star Wars trilogy much? How stupid can you be to have your flagship title that's supposed to bring your company back to prominence after very well-received games like Fallout 76 or Fallout 4, and the fact that you haven't had an Elder Scrolls in over a decade, right? How do you not have an ending? Don't even make the game until you have a complete story, right? Write the story, finish the story, then make the game. Don't fucking write the story as you're making the game and then fuck up the ending. Now, spoiler alert, because obviously an article like this has to cover the ending. So if you have not beaten Starfield or watched someone beat Starfield and you wish to be like surprised at it, I don't recommend that you listen to the rest of what I'm going to tell you, but just listen to this, okay? Speaking at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco recently, as part of a larger talk reflecting on the challenges and lessons from Bethesda's latest lengthy dev cycle, Starfield lead quest designer Will Shen, who since left Bethesda, said the ending was conceived out of necessity and urgency after the entire game reached a playable state and the lead developers noticed that it was lacking something. We were finally at a state in the project where we could play through the whole game, and it became very clear that we were missing the large final location that was going to tie the story together and have a satisfying action-filled payoff, Shen said. I was both implementing the main quest and leading the quest design team, so I had absolutely no time. The entire quest design team was already overbooked. If you're wondering exactly how an operation as complex and sophisticated as Bethesda Game Studios could essentially forget to add a proper ending until the last minute, well, according to Shen and former Fallout 76 lead level designer Daryl Bringer, who's also no longer at Bethesda, the sheer size of the 500-strong development team is partly to blame. It's more difficult than ever to know who does what or who you're supposed to be reporting to, Bringer said, with Shen adding that a large, spread-out team can sometimes lead to a silo effect in which every department is scrambling for resources and saying no to collaboration requests. According to Shen, this had the inadvertent consequence of favoring the department over the game itself. Every request now has to go through all of these producers because we need to check all the contingent work, Shen says. Asking for something as simple as a chair just wasn't even so simple. Do you need animations for that chair? Do you need sound effects for it? How much does it cost, and will it add to the schedule? Can it not fit because one of those teams just doesn't even have time to make it? Ultimately, Shen went to Starfield lead level designer Steve Cornett as a panic button, and Cornett came up with the idea that players would hop dimensions and revisit locations instead of Bethesda designing whole new locations for the finale. It's an efficient use of the game's world and a memorably offbeat spin on Bethesda's usual formula, even if it does arguably leave those few story threads hanging, but I guess that's dimension hopping for you. So essentially, what is this saying? It's very simple, all right? Bethesda has gotten too popular and grew too big and literally became a bloated monster that can no longer make games, which explains why their last 3 games sucked. Right? Literally, that's 100% exactly what they are saying here, okay? It's sad but true. Sometimes you grow too big for your own good. And many companies, this happens. Usually, it's like a food company. Like I think of like food franchise like Starbucks or Subway, where they get so big, they overexpand, their business model becomes unmanageable, the quality goes down, and now the whole business tanks. And this has actually happened both with Starbucks and with Subway. With Bethesda, they made so many good games. You know, they made 3 or 4 great Elder Scrolls games. Fallout 3 was a huge success. They even let another company make a spinoff in New Vegas. That was a huge success. And they let it get to their heads, and they just absolutely overexpanded. And because of that, you have 500 people working on a video game, and at every given moment, if you need something done, you've got to go through so many hoops. You've got to go through so much paperwork, so much bullshit just to get something basic done. Nothing gets done anymore, right? I mean, I tell you, yeah, they probably went into it, right? They probably totally went into it saying things like, oh, you know, this will be our biggest game ever. It's biggest scope, biggest this, biggest that. Don't worry, we're good enough that we'll figure it out on the fly. We'll let this game evolve as we make it, right? That's not how you do a story. You just don't. When you have a story, you need to have a beginning. You need a beginning. That's a good one. A beginning, a middle, and an end. And you need to then maybe work out some details while you're working on it. But you need to know the story. It's called an outline. I can't imagine anyone trying to do anything narrative without actually having an outline of their narrative. It's just crazy to me. And the fact that they're making how many millions of dollars of this game, right? The budget was huge for Starfield. And they didn't have the story done. It just baffles me. They didn't know how they were going to end it. So, it's just like, oh my God. Once you have your story set, then you can work on everything else, and you can expand or you can retract. You know, you can do what you need to do to make it work in the constraints and the budget and the resources and the personnel and whatever you have, the talent pool. But you need the story, or else you end up with the new Star Wars trilogy, which is exactly what happened with that. The first installment was absolutely amazing, right? The second installment floundered, and it felt like it was the end of the storyline. So why is there even a third movie? And then the third movie ends up being a bunch of bullshit because you don't need a trilogy anymore because you already ended your story in the second movie. It doesn't make any fucking sense. So, I mean, it's just awful. And how you didn't learn from stuff like that, you know? Like, as you're making this game, you see that happen. You see all the critical panning of the end of the trilogy, and you're like, well, we can't do that. We have to do something better than that. And then they just fucking do it. It's like, it's unfucking believable. Like, holy shit, dude. Yikes. It's not hard to believe if you have 500 people working on a game and literally, oh, well, we need a chair made. Well, we got to contact this department and wait 4 days for a response. Then they got to contact the animations team, the audio team, this and that. And we all got to work on this. So it takes 4 months to get one chair for your game. Guess what? That's not how you work together on anything. Like, I worked for a helicopter company. All right. Now, to do anything at the helicopter company, obviously, I had to work with my management directly. I had to work with the shipping department in the back. I had to work and call outside facilities who repaired helicopter parts and work with them. But even then, like, I could usually get stuff done within a day or two, especially if it was like a rush job for someone who needed something for a helicopter. Maybe it would take a couple days, but I'd get it done. 4 months for a chair, you know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't work. And obviously, it's just a problem with these AAA game devs. They've gotten too big. They've gotten too convoluted. They don't even have like a set work path of how to get anything done. So everyone's just confused, and then the game sucks. Well, Bethesda, it's time to fix that. Seriously, like, if this is the case, and if they're now working on the next Elder Scrolls, and they got 500 people working on the next Elder Scrolls, they got to fucking stop. Really, they just have to stop with the bullshit. Enough with the convoluted nonsense. And, you know, what I really got to ask is, what happened to Todd Howard? Right? Because if you actually look at Todd Howard and you hear he's done some interviews and things over the years talking about his history, and he's like, yeah, so for the original Elder Scrolls game we made, we had this many people, and then we were able to expand for the next one and the next one. So he's the one manning the helm. Why is he running the ship into the shoals? Right? What is this guy doing? It just drives me nuts. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't get it. AAA game development is not what it used to be. You used to know, oh man, Bethesda, whatever they pump out is going to be great. I can't wait for their next game. I don't even care what it is. Now it's like, oh, Bethesda. It's going to take them forever to have a new game. And when it comes out, it's probably going to suck. It's going to be way underperforming. It's going to, it's not going to live up to expectations. The ending, for the record, the ending of Starfield is atrociously bad. It was just one of the worst contrived endings I've ever heard. And it's a cop-out because basically it makes everything you've done in the game up to that point meaningless. It's, in essence, if you don't play Starfield, you've had exactly the same experience as if you've played Starfield. And that's a bad thing. They're morons. That you can tell that ending wasn't tested with anyone because it's such a bad ending. It makes you feel pissed off that you spent any time playing the game. So it just kills me that, like, they have this system and they had the world in their hands, at one point, and now they're just giving it away. Here, give all the credit. Larian surpasses them. CD Projekt Red did surpass them and then had a big floundering with Cyberpunk, but they're probably going to get it back. If they come out with a good game now, where people are going to look to these other companies for their epic RPG experiences, and Bethesda's just going to be left in the dust. You know what I'm saying?